So, my wife and my neighbor, who I've come up with a pretty unique nickname for, I just found out they betrayed me. Yeah, they've been getting together and texting behind my back and doing you know what else. Well, the thing is, I have them in the spot where I want them, because revenge is just too easy. I'm going deeper. I'm going to make sure I upend every single molecule of their life, and I'm going to do it with a smile. Poophead and Sarah have been like my family to my wife and I for several years. Practically ever since we moved in across the street from them, the four of us were extremely tight. Our kids are the same age as theirs and are all good friends. We were one big family unit. We did dinners together a few times a week. We went on vacations together even. I truly saw Poophead as a brother, and my wife and Sarah were very close too. 5 months ago, I was completely blindsided by the discovery of an affair between my wife and Poophead. My wife had left their email open on our computer, and I saw an email from her to her longtime therapist saying that Poophead would be joining her at an upcoming session. Again. What? My mind starts racing. Why in the world would Poophead be going to her therapy sessions without my knowledge? I did a search and found some other emails to and from the therapist, proving Poophead had been going to sessions together with her for about 6 weeks now. I checked our mobile phone account and discovered that since late summer, they've been exchanging hundreds of texts every day, peaking at nearly 500 a day by the holiday. Speaking of the holidays, my wife and I hosted both of our families, parents, siblings, etc. for both Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner. And Poophead and Sarah joined us for dinner or the after dinner on both holidays. Text records showed that the entire time they were at our house celebrating with our families, my wife and Poophead were texting each other across the room. They were doing that pretty much every time the four of us hung out for months. And you know, all day, every day, just in general. But what bothers me the most is that they were doing it with Sarah and I right there. So what do? I confront my wife with the evidence, and she's admitted that yes, she and Poophead had fallen in love and quote, it just happened. I don't know how, but I love him and I just don't feel anything for you anymore. I'm sorry. They had gone on a school district trip together, something had happened in her hotel room, and things have moved quickly from there. She explained as I laid face down on the couch, unable to look at her, that they had already made plans to move out and divorce me and Sarah. And while they didn't plan to move in together immediately because of the kids, they'd probably do so eventually. The meeting with the therapist were supposedly mostly for the purpose of finding a way to break this to me and Sarah as gently as humanly possible, because they were so very concerned for our well-being. Sarah and I are fairly certain that they weren't planning on telling us about the affair at all, and were simply going to, quote, discover their feelings for one another several months down the line, after they've come up with some reason to divorce the two of us. My wife moved about 2 months ago. I was and still am utterly destroyed. I cry every day. I cried writing the first few paragraphs of this story just now. I worry non-stop about the impact on our kids. But I'm also not exactly a shrinking violet when I feel that I've been wronged. And in this case, I was objectively very, very wronged. So, a couple years ago, Poophead ran for a Board of Education seat as a pretty extreme underdog. I helped him with his campaign materials, debate prep, and my wife, a well-known school district employee, this becomes important later, got the word out as best as she could. Much to our surprise, he actually won in a squeaker, but just a few dozen votes. Being on the board became the center of Poophead's world. He joined every committee that he could, and this turned into the foundation of his affair with my wife, as they were constantly going to school events and meetings together on evenings and weekends. Once I discovered the affair, my thoughts turned pretty quickly to revenge. And it occurred to me that an extramarital affair between a member of the Board of Education And an employee of the school district was at least bad politics and possibly violated district policy. Making things far worse for them was that my wife was in the running for an open administrative position, and everyone knew that she was more or less guaranteed the job and the major pay raise that came with it. She had just finished her master's degree in school administration, and at the urging of her principal and the superintendent so that she could be promoted to this specific position. I had plenty of evidence of the affair, texts from both of them admitting to it, text records showing that they were texting hundreds of times a day, emails to and from the therapist, etc., you name it. I considered simply emailing all the evidence to the board and the superintendent, but I felt like, as the grieving betrayed spouse, might not be such a credible source. So instead, I invented a fictitious, furious friend who was planning on showing up the next board meeting and publicly shaming the two of them for their affair. I told my wife that I've tried to talk this person down, but couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't show up and humiliate them publicly. As I expected, this led Craphead to conclude that the only option was for him to preemptively admit the affair to the board. The superintendent subsequently recommended that Craphead resigns, which he did. Sarah said that he was utterly humiliated and crushed, and barely got out of bed for a few days afterwards. Once word of the affair and Craphead's resignation started to get around, the superintendent, a longtime friend of both my wife and Craphead, contacted my wife directly and tearfully informed her that it was no longer politically appropriate for her to be promoted to an administrative position within the district. The position that had been lined up for her was later filled by an outside candidate. This sent waves of confusion and rumors throughout the district, as it was pretty well known that my wife was getting the job. The day after she was informed that she was not getting the promotion, my wife and I, despite our crumbling marriage, took our son out to a breakfast together on his birthday, and a parent stopped by our table to congratulate her on her new role. She said thanks, then excused herself to go cry in the bathroom. I let the dust settle for a couple weeks, and then right before my wife moved out, I let them in on my little secret. There was never a furious friend threatening to expose them in the first place. It was just little old me. Word of all this has gotten around our fairly small town and community, which Craphead grew up in, and my wife's worked in for nearly 2 decades. My wife refuses to talk to me about how things are at work now, but I've heard from some people and the grapevine I know in the district that her formerly spotless reputation has taken a major hit. Craphead, formerly a gregarious social presence in our neighborhood, and at events and pubs in town, has completely gone underground. He barely emerges to even mow his own lawn. He's moving soon to a crappy little townhouse, which is all he can afford, due to all the child support he's going to have to pay his wife. My wife and Craphead claim that they plan on trying to make things work together, despite all the public humiliation. I wish them lots of luck with that. I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun to show their faces together in town. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So that was definitely some revenge. That's not all, though. There was actually an update that was posted in the comment section, and I'm telling you, it was absolutely buried. I found it though. I hope you guys are enjoying your day so far. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button, because I have content like this every single day. And let's jump into this update. I've been getting a surprise number of requests to post an update to this story. I don't know, so here we go, where to start. It's been a bizarre few years, especially with COVID thrown into the mix, which I somehow still never caught, despite my kids getting it twice. Thankfully, just mild cases. Well, at the time that I posted the original story, I was obviously a wreck. Things actually got significantly darker for a while after that. My ex decided to start bringing Craphead around our children just a few months after she moved out, which was really hard for me to deal with. I'd never really dealt with serious depression before, but things got bad enough that my doctor, more or less, forced me to start an antidepressant because I admitted to him that I was thinking about hurting myself pretty frequently. I think this is where I should mention a trigger warning for the rest of this paragraph. I had a very specific plan and everything I needed to do. The one thing that gave me any kind of relief was telling myself that if life got any more unbearable, I had a way out. So yeah, it was pretty dark. But hey, I'm still here, and thankfully, I don't think about that option. I reluctantly decided to dip my toe into the online dating world, and after a number of short-term things that didn't pan out, I actually connected with someone, and much to my surprise, well, we've been together for 2 years next month. She's absolutely amazing. We don't live together, and for the time being, we're both good with seeing each other a few times a week. Would I love to see her more? You betcha. I'm ready to live with someone again and go all Brady Bunch with our respective kids. I'm not sure. For the time being, we have a lot of fun together, and that's more than good enough for me. As far as things stand with my ex and Craphead, well, believe it or not, they're still together. But there seems to be trouble in paradise because my kids report that they almost never see him anymore. My kids don't like him at all, and they just avoid him when he's around. According to my older one, when all of this started, she had seemed confident that they'd been living together pretty soon, but they still don't. And as far as I know, there's no plans in the works for that. They did buy a boat together, which I find hilarious for some reason. It just seems like the classic affair couple thing to do. Sarah took a lot of time to accept that her marriage was truly over. But once she did, she really did an admirable job moving on. She's engrossed herself in home improvement projects. She remains that same incredible mom that she's always been. And, well, she's been in a friends with benefits type relationship, which is all she wants now, with a guy, nice guy, for almost 2 years. We hang out here and there, especially when my pool's open in the summer. We aren't nearly as dependent on each other as we were in the beginning, but we're still close friends, and no, still nothing more between us. Which I'm glad about, because the one thing that in this situation definitely never needed was more drama. My ex left the school district she was working for and took a job in a neighboring district. I have no idea what Craphead's up to, nor do I care. I hardly ever see him except at the occasional school events. For a while there, I was worried that he'd look at me in the wrong way and I'd wind up in jail for knocking him out in an elementary school cafeteria or something, but I just don't care enough about him anymore to be that concerned. So, all in all, life is pretty okay right now. I do miss being a family. I still have nightmares about all this stuff and deal with intrusive thoughts at times. I fall asleep to audiobooks now to keep those thoughts at bay. Otherwise, I still struggle to sleep sometimes. But my girlfriend's amazing. I have an incredibly supportive family. I just officiated my sister's wedding a couple months ago. And I have a big dog who needs lots of walks, and that's a huge help for me on so many levels. I hope that updates answered people's questions. I want to thank everybody again for all the support. Wow. That was a crazy one. Guaranteed to have some drama in your life if you figure out that your wife is cheating on you with a neighbor, and it gets way juicier. They're intertwined in their careers. Wow. Smoke, bang, pop. Alright, let's read a couple comments for this one. With the blowback they'd both receive, I think it was an accident, like OP said. Figure out a way to divorce and then find their love. I'd guess that the ex wanted to make it official, but Craphead was dragging his feet and refusing to commit, hence him attending her therapy sessions. So she left the email open as a way of forcing the issue without technically coming clean. My thoughts exactly, says comment 3. Those dudes wanted to be found, and furthermore, 500 texts a day? On the holidays, when you're with your family members 24/7, she must have been glued to her phone. Red flag. Guys, what do you think of these comments? Do you agree with them? Let me know your opinions down below. In my personal opinion, I think that would be a pretty big red flag. If your partner or anyone you're with is just texting 500 texts a day and you don't notice, well, anyways, let me know your thoughts about that. Drop your comments down below. And if you're not subscribed to the channel and you want to see more stories like this, go ahead and click that subscribe button. I still have another story for you, and here's the title. I'm 24 male, and, well, my girlfriend and my brother got into a fist fight over a political argument, and now my family's demanding that I break up with her. I introduced my girlfriend to my parents, siblings, and extended family on a family get-together a few days ago. This was the first time I'd seen them since the start of the pandemic, and it started out really well, with everyone getting along and having a bubbly bit of fun. That would change as more alcohol was consumed, though. My girlfriend and brother got into a heated political argument that suddenly escalated to violence, resulting in a substantial injury for both of them. According of who threw the first punch differs, and I frankly don't care, as they both actively contributed to the fight and antagonized each other. The fight was eventually broken up when my girlfriend had the clear advantage. My mom screamed at my girlfriend to leave, so we left. I love both my girlfriend and my brother, and I don't blame either one of them for the fight more than I blame the other. My girlfriend also doesn't seem to hold any grudges. Basically, she's embarrassed by her behavior during the incident. My brother and parents, on the other hand, place 100% of the blame on my girl, and demand that I break up with her or they'll cut all ties with me completely. I'll not do that, but I want to maintain my relationship with my family and somehow get them to accept my girlfriend again, and that she should not bear all the blame in this incident. Well, my brother is also demanding that my girlfriend pay for all his alleged medical expenses and is threatening to report her to the police if she refuses to pay. My experience of growing up in this town makes me think sexism in the local police department makes it unlikely that anything would come of that report, as they would most certainly refuse to consider the possibility that a woman could ever assault a man. I've offered to pay off my brother, but my girlfriend refuses to let me do so, and she says that she will pay for him if he can prove that the medical expenses are real. My girlfriend still has clearly visible injuries, but did not visit the hospital. I suggested that she goes to get her injuries documented, but she doesn't want to. I just wished everyone could forget about this and move forward, but writing this makes me think. My family is just acting unreasonably, and perhaps I should just cut contact with them as they're threatening to do with me. Perhaps growing up with these people makes me blind to how ridiculous their behavior is. I don't know what I should do. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here with your update. The next update came out 5 days after the original post. Here it is. Thank you for all the advice and apologies for the vagueness of my original post. I showed it to my girlfriend and she agreed that it was vague and thought I left out important details. I'll let her provide these details at the end. You convinced me that it may actually matter who throws the first punch. Before making the original post, I'd heard 2 mutually exclusive versions of events, one told by my girlfriend and one told by both my parents and brother. It's honestly very hard for me to believe that any of them would lie about something like this. I've since reached out to everyone else who may have seen how it started and received 2 relevant replies. One from my aunt, who confirmed my parents' and brother's version, and one from my youngest sister, who described a scenario similar to what my girlfriend told me. Everyone who sided with my brother has obviously had the opportunity to talk to him and with each other and intentionally, or unintentionally, influence each other's story. It's very unlikely that my girlfriend and sister have done that, as they don't even know each other, and my sister would have no reason to lie for my girlfriend. I don't think there's a reasonable explanation for them telling the same story, other than it's the truth. I'm therefore almost certain that my brother hit my girlfriend first. My parents have recanted the threat to cut ties for me not breaking up with my girl, but they're still saying that she's not welcome back to their home and, quote, will never be part of the family. I'm honestly done with them at this point. She's done everything and more, including being willing to pay for his medical expense, and my brother refuses to even hear an apology, much less make his own or take any sort of responsibility. At this point, I'm 100% behind my girlfriend, just as my parents are 100% behind my brother. Many people commenting on the original post asked if my brother is racist, or assumed that he is after I've revealed what the argument was about. I'm honestly not sure how to answer that. My brother sometimes repeats racist talking points from TV and social media, especially against Hispanic people. But last year, he was strongly against the deportation of a neighboring family who had immigrated from Mexico. He even probably facetiously suggested that their deportation was a conspiracy to undermine Trump's immigration policy by deporting good people instead of violent criminals. I've never heard my brother use a racial slur or seen him treat anyone differently because of their race, but I guess the answer depends on how you define racism. Alright guys, Mr. AITA here. One more thing to cover. Now we get to look at the girlfriend's comment. Here it is. This is what I think happened based on what I remember, assume, and what was told afterwards. It's probably not entirely correct. Where we were all sitting at the big ol' outdoor table. I was sitting between my boyfriend and his brother. We talked about non-political things like places we've been or wanted to travel, but then someone mentioned the protest and my boyfriend's brother immediately responded by calling the protesters terrorists. I asked what made them terrorists and if the cops were also terrorists by that definition. I don't remember how he responded, but the argument continued from there. We were drinking progressively more alcohol as we continued to argue, almost like if we were in an unspoken drinking contest. At some point, we both stood up and continued to argue loudly while getting in each other's face. My boyfriend tried to separate us by pulling us away from each other and by attempting to stand between us, but we ignored him and continued on. My boyfriend really doesn't like conflict or people screaming, and he really was probably very frustrated at the time. So he left, went to his house. We were both angry, and I definitely wanted to punch him, but I still had enough self-control to restrain myself. I fully believe in freedom of speech, and I know that violence is never an acceptable response to someone expressing an opinion. Then he punched me with a closed fist in the face. I don't remember feeling afraid or like I was defending myself when I hit him back. What I felt was a strange mix of hatred and excitement, is what I felt. We traded a few punches, and then one of mine caused him to fall to the ground. It was the McGregor 1-2. I right away kicked him in the chest and was pulled away after that by his father. The kick on the ground is what I regret the most. It was excessive, dangerous, completely unnecessary, and I kicked someone laying defensively on the ground, and I didn't feel anything for him until several hours later. I'm terrified of the person I was then, but that person is still me. I did that, but I can't understand why. I was not afraid, and I remember doing it deliberately. I keep thinking about what would have happened if no one was around to stop me after that kick. Would I have kicked him again? How many times? I can't answer those questions, and that's the most terrifying thing. My boyfriend wrote that we both had substantial injuries. I don't think that's true. I had a black eye and some bruises. My boyfriend's brother had a broken rib and an actual concussion. My injuries, they weren't substantial compared to what his were. Why, I don't think it's unfair for me to pay for his medical bills. I would have done that even without the threat of reporting me to the police. Some comments on the post indicated that my boyfriend's brother should either be more to blame or should feel ashamed as losing because of his gender. Guys, I disagree with that. Gender should not have anything to do with this. It's possible that he feels differently and is ashamed of losing to a girl, But I don't think he should feel that way even within the value system, as it was essentially random. I mean, he could have just as well knocked me to the ground with the first punch. I don't think strength or skills played any significant role. So this story was just crazy to me. I couldn't believe that they would get into an actual fist fight over politics at a family dinner, especially being not even blood related. That's just crazy to me, and I do think both of them should be embarrassed like it said they were. Let me know your thoughts about this story. I want to know from you guys, though. At a family gathering, yours, maybe someone you know, have you ever seen something this crazy or something similar that could have led to a fist fight? Let me know your stories. Drop them down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for joining me on these stories today. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, drop a comment down below. Let's talk about it. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, my name's Mr. Redditel. I post every single day. You can also find my other channels in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.